Welcome back, guys. In this video I'll continue covering Ellen Nilssen's games from the Uppsala Young Champions Tournament that was played in Sweden recently, and this game will look at her black game against Adam Frank. Ended in a draw after a tense game, and we'll take a look at how that unfolded. So Ellen faced 1 e4, replied with her pet line, the French defense. She usually plays this and knows it really well. d4, d5, and now the Tarrasch defense, or Tarrasch variation, as it's called here. The Tarrasch defense is a entirely different opening. c5 from Ellen. There's lots of options here. de4 is one option. Also, a knight f6 is probably the most complicated line. So I really like Ellen's approach with c5. It's also my preferred line in this variation. However, after ed, I usually go queen d5. She took with a pawn, which often results in a Isolani type of position. After these moves, we are, as we can see, stuck with an isolated pawn on d5 with black. However, if you have such an isolated pawn in any of your games, just remember that you want to play actively, and you don't want to trade off too many pieces, because in an endgame with heavy pieces left, this pawn is very difficult to defend. So just a general rule for you guys: if you have an isolated pawn, try to keep pieces on the board, play actively, and don't try at least avoiding ending up defending this pawn the entire game, because that can be pretty passive. So castles from Ellen, knight f3, and she exchanges one knight, which looks fine. Usually though, there's no rush in doing this, but I guess you wanted to avoid some knight g5 stuff. Could of course go for something else. Could play the move f6, which might look a bit weakening, but it controls several important squares and prepares maybe knight e5 in the next move, which looks quite nice. So f6 might have been an approach. Knight d4 is not bad at all. g6 is Ellen's point, because now she has knight f5. And now knight f5, bishop recaptures, and as we can see in this position, we have exchanged two minor pieces, both pairs of, or a pair of knights, and then another on f5. So usually one would think that this is exchanging too many pieces, and that black's position is passive and slightly weak with the pawn on d5, but as we now can see, Ellen is of course trying to exchange queens, which would be fine for black, and white has a limited number of ways to pressure this pawn on d5. Black looks active enough and more than fine here, so I don't think it's a big advantage for white, not at all. I think this is pretty even. Bishop g5, however, is a pawn sacrifice, because after f6, or at least bishop e3 is a pawn sacrifice. You could go bishop h6, threaten this, and then save this guy. Bishop e3, however, played. Ellen grabs a pawn on c2, and after rook a c1 and rook c8, then white goes back with bishop h6, which looks, well, at least not logical to me, because you could have played this a couple of moves ago, so why do it now? Rook f7, and in this position I think Ellen is enjoying a very big advantage. After something like bishop e5, for example, preparing these moves as I've prepared for you guys, perhaps queen d6 to centralize the queen, a6 to kick the bishop away, and maybe even rook f to c7 to double rooks before moving this guy away, and trying to get into c2 with a rook instead. Many options here for black, and it's not clear to me what white's compensation is based on, because there's no attack going on here, and it looks pretty good to me. F4, for example, trying to get some rook e8 stuff in. It's not going to work because you have something. Well, you have several moves here. You could, of course, give a check immediately with the bishop, but there's also a very juicy possibility of playing queen b6 to capture on b5. So there's a number of ways you can do this. For example, this, and then capture on b2, again saying hello to this guy on b5, and with 2 pawns up and a reasonably safe king, this looks very nice for black. You could also play something like bishop e5, just cementing that bishop into e4 in the center of the board and in the next move. So this looks very nice for black, with probably a winning position. However, Ellen chose queen b6, which is also quite logical, but after a couple of moves here, queen h3, bishop goes back, queen to b3, now queen d4. Slightly loses the thread. Bishop e5 was still an option, trying to keep control of the position, and queen d5 is not possible here because rook c5 actually wins a piece because d8 is covered, so there's no check on the 8th rank. So that was a possibility for Ellen. Chose queen d4. Remember, this is a complicated position, and I'm sitting here with the computer, so it's easy for me to pass judgment, but this is complicated stuff. Queen h4, g3, and now we can see that the pawn on d5 is struggling. So queen b4 and then queen d5, and it's pretty even Steven in this position. Some exchanges of pieces. Bishop b3, it looks like white is winning, but of course we have bishop e1 already, and it's pretty equal. And this position, they played a couple of more moves, and as we can see, there's also the case of opposite colored bishops, but as there's no material imbalance and the position itself is pretty symmetrical and equal, there's limited chances to play for a win here, so we can just follow the rest of the game. And some back and forth, and after exchanging the rooks, this position is very dry and very equal. And after some more moves, they agreed to a draw in this position. A solid game by Ellen, but she had very good winning chances, as she had in many games in Uppsala. We'll take a look at some more in the next videos.